All right, we are a few minutes past the hour, so I think we should go ahead and get started. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today, this morning, or this afternoon, depending on where you may be. Really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy day. Today, we've got another release highlight coming out. If you missed last week we did have another release highlight on availability forecasting, and it is live on our YouTube channel, so I do encourage you guys to check that out. But today, we're really excited to talk to you guys about enhanced bid and delivery modifiers. This is something that's been months in the making that we're really excited about. And without further ado, let's jump into a quick round of introductions before diving in. My name's Albert, and I represent product marketing for Beeswax. I'll be moderating today, but I want to introduce the star of the show here, Kurt Yonker, our director of product management here at Beeswax for our optimization team. He and the team have really been putting a lot of effort into this release, and we're super happy that we've been able to roll it out. So let's quickly cover what we'll be talking about, and then I'll turn it over to Kurt. So we'll be covering a number of topics today. We'll talk through what exactly bid and delivery modifiers are while touching on a handful of use cases for them before quickly summarizing what's new with the enhanced modifier features. And then Kurt will take us through a platform demo before we close with some Q&A. Speaking of Q&A, I do encourage you guys to use the Q&A function in the lower right-hand corner. Ask your questions whenever, and we will get to them during the Q&A portion of our presentation. So with all that being said, nobody needs to listen to me anymore. Kurt, take it away.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Albert. I'm really happy to be here talking about one of our new releases today. And I'm especially happy to be representing the very large team of people that put all of this together. It's no exaggeration to say that there were easily over a dozen hands directly in the guts of this thing. And it was a big, complex release involving a few different teams. So thanks to everyone involved. Yeah, and just to get started, I want to basically give a quick overview of what bid and delivery modifiers actually are. At the highest level, bid modifiers allow customers to adjust the bids, their prices that they're paying for inventory, adjust bids higher in some cases, adjust bids lower in other cases. And delivery modifiers are tools that allow our customers to decide where they want to spend their budget, either at a campaign or a line item level. So we'll dig into what that actually means. But I want to start out with bid modifiers. So the idea here is the user can define really any dimension of RTB inventory that's interesting to them and apply a multiplier on that dimension. And this is going to affect their bid price. So let's say that we have normally just a flat $1 CPM. And I'm going to direct your attention to the screenshot here. There are a few things going on, but I just want to look at the top row. We have the Android operating system with a multiplier of 0.75. That means that when this line item bids on the Android operating system or inventory coming from there, rather than bidding that flat $1 CPM, we're going to bid 75 cents. And the same will be true if we look to the next row of Apple iOS. We've got a multiplier of 1.25. So in this case, we'll bid a little higher for Apple inventory. Now, this is a super kind of generic tool that can be used for lots and lots of different use cases. We might imagine looking at these operating systems that, based on whatever you're targeting, you might find Android is just generally a little less expensive and Apple is more expensive for you to buy against. And in order to, keep up a healthy win rate and pace appropriately, you might adjust your Apple spend up, using a modifier like this. But let's look at another example as well. If we check out the next couple of rows, we've got cities now. We're looking at London and LA. So this is a totally different dimension of inventory, but that's fine. And what we might imagine here is, let's say we're running a campaign that is looking for clicks or any type of conversion. And we find that London is actually more performant than most other cities. We might decide to bid a little bit more in London so that we can win more of those impressions. And likewise, we might find that Los Angeles, California, for one reason or another, is drastically more performant for us. And in that case, we could choose to double our bids in LA because we really want to win a lot of that valuable inventory. Of course, these are contrived examples, but these are the types of things that you're meant to be able to do with bid modifiers. And we have most of our customers use these, and we've got folks in the system every day configuring these and applying them to their line items and campaigns. So with that being said, it is the case that we've had bid modifiers for several years in the Beeswax platform. The reason that we're so excited about this release is because we've given them a complete makeover and facelift, to the extent where we've rebuilt the user interface from scratch, from the ground up, and we've also rebuilt all of our APIs. The intention here is to make these super quick and easy to use for people who are actually just boots on the ground, playing with these things every single day. And so I'm going to get into that a little bit more when we look at the demo, but I want to say that is like a major investment here. And in addition to the new workflow, we've also come out with a new piece of functionality called segment recency. The name is a little bit funny, but I think you guys will recognize the use case. The idea is simply, suppose you're an advertiser and you want to retarget people who have gone to your website. And in particular, you might want to bid more for people who have been to your website in, say, the last 7 days or the last 3 days. Segment recency is our bid modifier tool that allows you to define any time windows in the last 90 days down to minutes of granularity, and basically say, for any given user, was he in this segment in this time period? If so, bid more or potentially bid less. So I'll give a demo of that as well, but that is really a new sort of shiny feature that can be used a lot of different ways. So I will, I guess, at this point, remind everyone, if you have questions, please write them down. There's going to be a little Q&A at the end. But otherwise, I'm going to hop onto delivery modifiers. So in the sense that, bid modifiers are used to adjust your bids up and down, delivery modifiers are, again, meant to basically help you spend your budget on exactly the inventory you want. So we're not spending more or less. We're just sort of deciding what we're bidding on in the first place. Now, for example, you might want to spend, say, 80% of your budget in Los Angeles and 20% of your budget in New York. If you were to do that, we'll just look at this weight column here. You would enter an 80 weight for Los Angeles and a 20 weight for New York. It's basically as simple and straightforward as that, and then the system will balance your budget accordingly. Now, the big addition and improvement that we've made with this delivery modifier v2 is to support multiple dimensions of inventory. It used to be the case that you could split your delivery by city, like I mentioned, or possibly by browser or device type, but you can only do one dimension at a time. Now we can see we support up to 3. So in this example, we have ad position. We're also looking at whether this is authorized as directly sold or it's coming from a reseller. And we're also looking at a couple of different domain lists. So the use case here, just to kind of give this a voiceover, is the customer has a list of domains they want to buy against. And on the top row, they're saying they want to buy directly against those domains, and they want to spend 45% of their budget on it. I mentioned budget caps a little bit earlier. Here, excuse me. We're indicating that while we want to spend at least 45% of the budget on directly sold this domain list, we don't want to spend more than 60%. So that's also an important feature that offers some safety rails and allows users to sort of get more granular in the ways that they're trying to spend their budget. But just to round this out, we've also defined some inventory here using a domain list that's being resold, but above the fold. And now we're looking also at another domain list. This could be, who knows, just a white list of some junk that you buy when you can't deliver enough otherwise. But this is the basic mechanism that our customers can use to really spend their inventory in all sorts of different combinations and ways. And I will say, if you're one of the rare few who need more than 3 dimensions in order to specify what you want to deliver against, give us a call. We have a tool for that as well called Delivery Models, but it's a little bit more involved. We don't have a UI for it, but we can support those cases as well. And then while I'm on the screen, really the last thing I want to mention is we've also updated a few of the names of a couple of fields in our system. So if you're a user who's been using Beeswax for a while, you might recognize names like default delivery. We've renamed that to fallback wait, largely because we think this better describes the functionality, and we've sort of changed how it fits into the workflow. The idea, of course, with default delivery, or now fallback wait, is if you want to spend a little bit of your budget on something that you've targeted that isn't defined above, so that isn't in those domain lists, for example, this allows you to do that. So this is helpful for like prospecting, for example, if you want to just test the market for analytics purposes, or to get data for maybe like machine learning or something like that. This allows you to spend just a little bit on like a very broad swath of inventory. Cool. So I think that is kind of enough preamble. Just to reiterate, the new stuff we're super proud of is the new APIs, new UI. We've got support for segment recency, and we've drastically improved delivery modifiers so that we can use multiple dimensions and budget caps. So yeah, quite a bit of new stuff on these tools. And I think it's time to just hop into a quick demo. So here, anyone who is familiar and has used Beeswax before has seen this page quite a number of times. This is our line item overview page, and it basically just has the basic metadata of a line item. And the reason I show it is because normally we have here a section for bid and delivery modifiers. This is the old version. We've actually taken that out, and you won't find it on this page anymore. Instead, we've got an optimization tab we've built into the workflow, and you're going to find your bid and delivery modifiers here. And in the future, as we come out with new types of tools for optimization, we'll probably be nesting them in this left-hand panel as well. But let's go ahead and just create a new bid modifier. We'll give it a name, let's say Kurt's demo. And the first thing we need to do is basically just add some bid modifier terms. So let's say time of week, and let's say this advertiser cares about the 6 to 11 p.m. block and wants to spend a little bit higher because we really want to win more impressions in the evening. When we click done, we see we have these daily time definitions with multipliers. So exactly what we're hoping for and would expect. And from there, we can add additional types of modifiers depending on our business rules. Let's say that we want to look at browser, Chrome, Firefox, and Opera. Let's see, we could add those. And maybe this wants to be 1.5. Here I'm using the tab key to cycle between these. I'll just make this up. This is 2, this is 0.3. Using the tab keys is just one of the different, kind of like key combinations we've added to help people sort of cycle through these forms more quickly. And before I save this, I'm going to add one more modifier just to show you guys how the new segment recency works. And let's see, I think I've got a segment here called, yes, site visitors. So just as you'll know with targeting and segment recency support there, if we press this little button, we can say less than 7 days. And let's also define a window to say less than 2 days. And if we do that, we can define these multipliers as well. So we'll say 1.2 and 1.9, just for the sake of argument. So it's easy as that to define different segments. And now we just save. So you'll notice as soon as I press the save button, we need to specify a max bid. We'll say $20. Now the toggle has switched over here to choose existing, and we've just created a new modifier that we could associate with other line items and campaigns if we wanted, or we could just pick some other modifier that already existed in the system. And this is all meant to be just pretty intuitive and usable. But I'll leave that as we left it. and take a look at delivery modifiers quickly. Here, we'll just go through a similar workflow and add some new terms. So in this instance, I think I'll start with auction type, where we've got first price or second price. And I can set some weights for these. So we'll say 75 and 25, just for sake of argument. When we're talking about these, multiple dimensions, this button is where the magic is at. We can add another targeting field and look at, for example, different device types. So when I'm looking at first price auctions, I might be focused on connected TV. And again, this is a made up example. Here, we're focusing on second price auctions that we find on desktop. And now we will expect our campaign's budget, which is $100, to deliver basically $75 to first price connected TV and $25 to the desktop. Of course, if we want to set some budget caps on that, we absolutely can. So I'll just do that for sake of demonstration, and I'll add a little fallback weight just as buffer. And we can save. So that's basically the sort of quick look and feel of these new tools and how they work. But as you can see, it's basically painless to create some of these, and they start working immediately. So with that, let's hop out of demo mode. And I think it is time for some Q&A if anyone has any questions.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kurt. Seeing a couple questions trickle in. So I guess the first question is, when will the new optimization tab be available on the platform?
Great question. It's available right now. So actually, over the last few months, we've gone through a series of closed and then open beta releases, getting all of this software like really kind of battle hardened and ready for everyone. And at this point, it has been turned on for most customers, but since there is an API change involved, any customers who use the API will need to be migrated sort of at their own convenience based on their development. But this is in principle available for all customers to use right now.
What about for customers that have not migrated to targeting V2?
Oh, that's a great question. Everyone should migrate to targeting V2, I think, as quickly as you can, but this is not available unless you have migrated to targeting V2. And you'll find that the API conventions and the sort of like targeting changes that were made are sort of reflected in both of those systems. So we're building a kind of a coherent, consistent API moving forward.
Oh, we had a question come through the chat, which was, please touch briefly on assumed multiplication of various bid modifiers.
Let's see. Please touch on assumed multiplication. Yes. So I think what this is asking is what happens if multiple bid modifiers apply to the same impression. So if we have a modifier that says bid twice as much in Los Angeles, and we have a different modifier that says bid 3 times as much on Chrome inventory, if we saw Chrome inventory in Los Angeles, we would bid 6 times as much, 2 times 3 times your base price. So all bid modifiers are cumulative or multiplicative in this sense. And higher multipliers will raise your bid, but multipliers that are less than 1 will also then lower it. So they're all meant to work together kind of holistically in this sense.
Great. We've got a couple other questions coming in through the Q&A. If you don't mind, I'll take a first stab and would love for you to add color, Kurt. So the next question is, does first price and second price have anything to do with the first price auction where we pay the full price of the auction, contrary to bid shading, which is kind of a second price auction? So with regard to first and second price auctions, yes, the first price does refer to a first price auction where the full price of the auction, where the bid you submit is the bid that's accepted, versus the second price auction where the bid is reduced to 1 cent above the second highest bid in that auction. But I do want to clarify that when we talk about bid shading actually, when the bid shading feature is in use with Beeswax, that actually only applies to first price auctions. And the reason it does that is because in a second price auction, the What bid shading, excuse me, let me take a step back and quickly talk about bid shading. Bid shading is where we actually reduce the price of a first price auction. Whereas in a second price auction, that price reduction is already built in because the highest bid is reduced to a cent above the second highest bid. So with regard to bid shading, we will slightly lower the price of a first price auction to save you money over time. Sorry, that was a little convoluted, but Kurt, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just to say that the way to think about the order of operations in the Beeswax platform is when we're evaluating a bid, first we'll take your, say, flat CPM, then we'll apply all of your bid modifiers. And then once we have that price, we'll apply bid shading if you're using that as well. So there's sort of like, those are the order of the steps. Bid shading happens last.
Yep, and if we can clarify more, please let us know and we'll be happy to elaborate. Then the next question is, how do you generate the audience site visitors? And so the way that works out is that the site visitors audience is going to be based off of a pixel that you place on your page. So that's going to be a first party segment. And as you generate that pixel within the platform, place it on your page, it'll create an event where as people land on that page, that audience will continue to populate. Kurt, if we have time, we could pop into the platform and just show this is how you create a pixel, but or you could just follow up with us live or to reach out to a CSM or a sales representative, and they'd be happy to take you through a demo there as well.
Yeah, we could. Do we have any other questions though, perhaps before jumping into the UI?
Sure, just one more question is just what happens if two segment recency windows overlap in bid modifiers?
Oh, this is a great question. So as I explained a couple of minutes ago, if there are different multipliers that each apply, say Chrome browser and Los Angeles, they will all multiply together. The exception to this is segment recency. So you could imagine, well, I used the example of having two recency buckets. One is in the last 7 days and the other is in the last 2 days. So obviously these buckets overlap during that first 2-day period. When this happens in real life and we see a user that could be in any of these different buckets, we pick the one that has the highest multiplier. So we don't multiply all of the segment recency windows together. We just take the one with the highest multiplier. And the reason for this is because we think that gives the user the best chance to win the auction while still respecting the rules that they had expressed in our system. And it's too much to expect people to manage all of the different recency windows. So we just take the highest bid out of them.
Great. We actually did have a couple extra. We did have a couple extra questions trickle in while during that particular question. And like the first one is, do bid modifiers just multiply factors against the price? Answer is yes. But if you want to add additional.
No, that's basically the answer. Yep. You're adding multipliers. And we do have a tool that's very similar called bid models, which you can specify just like flat prices with. But yeah, bid modifiers are intended just to ratchet your flat bid up or down.
And we do actually have collateral that does specify the differences between bid modifiers and bid models. So if you're interested, I do encourage you to reach out to us at bass@beeswax.com, and I'd be happy to provide that to you. So we do have another question, and the question is, in the new delivery modifier tab, can I select only second price auction for each of my lines?
Yes, if you want to, you can. Now, if you pick second price auction for every single one of those lines, that means that suppose you've targeted first and second price auctions, just for sake of argument. If all of your delivery modifier lines are for second price auctions and you have no fallback weight, that means you will only deliver against second price auctions and you won't have any delivery against first price auctions. You would need to either add a modifier for the first price auctions or give a fallback weight so that the system can bid on everything that you're targeting.
Alternatively, if you do only want to target on second price auctions, would you rather use it? Would it be simpler to just use that as a targeting parameter versus as a term on the delivery modifier lines?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. If you just know that you always want something or generally don't want something, I mean, targeting is still the way to go. Yeah, really, these delivery modifiers are for sort of shaping your spend inside of those bounds. Absolutely.
Right. So would you say that it's fair to think of delivery modifiers as like an overlay on top of your existing targeting parameters?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. I don't think we actually have time to run through the platform and just show a quick setup of creating a pixel. So if you would like to see that, again, if you have an existing CSM, please reach out to them and talk about how you can do that, or reach out to us and we'll see if we can get a sales rep to provide a demo for that particular functionality and more. I'm going to put out a last call for questions right now. But if there are no more questions, I think that this has been a really strong session with a lot of engagement, and would love to say thanks again for joining us this morning and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the time and attention.